Hello friends. Today we will plunge into the exciting world of interpersonal relationships and talk about 5 types of people who can influence our lives, sometimes not in the best way. We will look at what mysterious masks clever deceivers wear, how eternal complainers create a cloud of indignation around themselves, and how endless demands can be a real challenge to our borders and emotional well-being. Are you ready to dive into the analysis of personalities that can radically change the course of our interactions? Then let's get started. Exceptionally ambitious. When meeting exceptionally ambitious people, we often encounter individuals whose aspirations and ambitions are put above the interests of others. These people, in their race to success, can use others as a means to achieve their goals. Their ambitions become the center of everything, and they are ready to take on any price for the sake of their success. In dealing with such personalities, Stoics teach us to look at situations from the point of view of apathy, maintaining inner peace and balance regardless of external circumstances. When faced with exceptionally ambitious people, it is important to learn to recognize the boundaries that they are willing to cross in their aspirations and put themselves first. Striving for success is an important quality, but Stoics teach that it should not conflict with ethics and respect for others. In relationships with exceptionally ambitious people, it is worth paying attention to the balance of interests and how their goals can be combined with general well-being. It is important to maintain your integrity, not becoming just a tool in the hands of an ambitious person, and to remember the importance of mutual benefit in a relationship. Individuals who can be described as exceptionally ambitious are often distinguished by their desire to achieve their goals, sometimes so intense that others may find themselves in the background. These people are ready to work no matter what. Their will to succeed can be impressive, but at the same time they can sometimes lose sight of the ethical norms and interests of others. One of the key traits of exceptionally ambitious people is often commitment to their own goals, sometimes at the expense of the feelings and needs of others. This feature can lead to situations where they put their ambitions above human relationships or moral principles. In the context of Stoicism, it is important to understand that although ambition and the pursuit of success are quite natural, it is important to find a balance between achieving personal goals and respecting others. Stoics teach the values of justice in relationships where the interests of all parties are taken into account. If we come across exceptionally ambitious people, it's worth being able to identify boundaries and not lose our own value in the process. It also warns against possible negative consequences when ambition becomes a priority over ethical norms and human relations. The cunning dodgers. Cunning tricksters are individuals who have a fine sense of situations and are able to deftly manipulate the world around them in their favor. They masterfully use their wits to achieve their goals, often without caring about honesty or moral principles. In the context of Stoicism, when faced with cunning tricksters, it is important to remember the principle of consent and acceptance. The Stoics teach that we cannot fully control external circumstances, and sometimes we have to accept them for what they are. However, this does not mean that we should become victims of manipulation. Cunning tricksters will probably try to influence your emotions, exploit your trust and weaknesses. It is important to develop emotional intelligence and learn to recognize manipulations in order not to be influenced by them. Stoicism also teaches inner stability and the preservation of emotional balance. Looking at cunning dodgers through the prism of Stoic principles helps you not to lose your integrity and calmness in situations where others are trying to manipulate you. It is important to learn how to set boundaries and, if necessary, defend your interests while maintaining inner harmony. This is often reflected in their ability to read people and situations. The art of manipulating dodgers can take many forms, ranging from subtle tactics to overt strategies aimed at achieving personal goals. They have a high degree of intuition, which allows them to accurately identify other people's weaknesses and vulnerabilities. This ability concerns not only understanding the emotional state of others, but also creating the illusion of trust and persuasion through communication skills. Tricksters can be virtuosic in using verbal deception, wrapping phrases in such a way as to create the illusion of truthfulness and persuasiveness. Emotional manipulation is another key tool in their arsenal. They can evoke and manipulate the emotions of others, creating dramatic situations, or, conversely, suppressing feelings. Dodgers often appear to others in the guise of honest and conscientious people, which makes their actions difficult to recognize. Using disguise and stealth, they can successfully hide their real intentions. In addition, they deftly discover and exploit the weaknesses and fears of others, adapting their actions to the individual characteristics of each in order to achieve maximum influence. In the context of Stoicism, it is important to develop self-awareness skills in order to become less vulnerable to the influence of cunning tricksters. Stoics call for honesty, transparency, and the preservation of inner steadfastness, which helps to resist manipulation and maintain emotional stability. The eternal complainers. When we meet eternal complainers, we come across people who constantly find a reason to resent and complain about their lives. Their complaints can be endless and are often not accompanied by real steps to solve problems. Instead of looking for ways to improve their situation, they prefer to hover in the clouds of resentment, abusing the sympathy of others. In the context of Stoicism, it is important to realize that we cannot always change external circumstances, but we can control our reaction to them. Eternal complainers may face difficulties, but their problem-solving approach may be ineffective, as they are often prone to an endless cycle of resentment, instead of taking responsibility for their lives. Stoicism teaches that it is important to distinguish between what is in our control and what is not in our control. Empathy for eternal complainers may be a natural reaction, but it's important to keep healthy boundaries and not let their complaints become a source of our emotional exhaustion. The Stoic approach also involves encouraging decisive action and finding real solutions, even in situations of difficulty. With regard to eternal complainants, it is worth remembering the importance of support, but also that help should be directed at creating conditions for self-solving problems, and not at maintaining a cycle of endless complaints. Eternal complainers are people for whom problem-solving and resentment become an integral part of their lives. They can find reasons to complain in any situation, even if it is seemingly insignificant. These people tend to emphasize their difficulties and failures, creating an atmosphere of constant discontent. Eternal complainers can abuse the sympathy of others, turning it into a kind of emotional support. However, they often do not seek to solve their problems, but use complaints as a way to attract attention and sympathy. In this way, they create a dynamic in which persistent problems serve as a basis for receiving attention and support. In Stoicism, such behavior is viewed through the prism of the principle of distinguishing what is in our control and what is not in our control. Eternal complainers can change their view of situations if they realize that many external circumstances are beyond their control, and they can change their reaction to them. In dealing with eternal complainers, it is important to learn how to set boundaries and not let their complaints affect your emotional state. Support and empathy are important, but it's also important to keep in mind the need to encourage positive steps in solving problems, rather than supporting an endless cycle of resentment. Clever liars. Clever deceivers are individuals who are distinguished by sophisticated deception and cunning skills. Using lies as an art tool, they strive to achieve their goals, often at the expense of honesty and moral principles. Such personalities can embody various forms of deception, from small false statements to complex manipulation strategies. Clever deceivers often show an outstanding ability of persuasion. Their words can be framed in a way that gives the impression of verisimilitude, and they have a unique mastery of language. This allows them to create illusions, misleading others, and masking their real intentions. One of the main tools of clever deceivers is emotional manipulation. They can use other people's feelings to soften their vigilance and achieve a greater tendency to believe in their words. Emotional deception allows them to create the illusion of intimacy and trust, which makes it easier to fulfill their goals. In the context of Stoicism, it is important to distinguish between illusion and reality. Stoics teach to keep a clear mind and beware of manipulations affecting the emotional component. They call for the development of skills to distinguish truthful information from lies and for conscious control over your emotions. Clever tricksters can use disguise and stealth to hide their real intentions. They usually try to create an image of conscientious and honest people around them, which makes it difficult to recognize their true nature. It is important to pay attention to actions, not just words, in order to resist this kind of manipulation. Stoics also emphasize the value of honesty and morality. In dealing with clever deceivers, it is important to adhere to principles and not allow yourself to fall for their traps. Developing critical thinking, analyzing situations, and trusting your instincts will help strengthen your resistance to the influence of dexterity and lies. Endless demands. They can express their needs and desires so intensely that attention to them becomes an endless process, and meeting their demands seems impossible. In the context of Stoicism, it is important to learn how to set boundaries and manage your resources, including time and attention. Endless demands that do not respect personal boundaries can create a feeling of internal pressure and stress. Stoics call for moderation and a reasonable allocation of their resources to preserve inner peace. These individuals may also ignore your right to personal space and individual needs. It is important to learn how to say no and protect your personal boundaries, even if endless demands seek to violate them. Stoics teach us to accept that not everything is in our control, but control over how we respond to the demands of others is in our hands. Dealing with endless demands also involves distinguishing between taking care of others and taking care of yourself. Stoics call for taking care of our well-being and not allowing the constant demands of others to take away our inner harmony. Creating a balance between caring for others and respecting one's own needs becomes a key aspect of maintaining emotional balance in a relationship with endless demands. Endless demands are people who constantly express their needs, expecting you to meet their demands without taking into account your own boundaries and resources. They create an atmosphere of constant inquiry and dissatisfaction, which can become a source of stress and even a feeling of inner anxiety. Endless demands can manifest themselves in various areas of life, whether at work, in personal relationships, or in other social contexts. Their constant requests for your attention and time can leave you exhausted and annoyed. It is important to realize that managing your borders is not only a right, but also a necessity. Stoics emphasize the importance of maintaining inner harmony and emotional fortitude. In dealing with endless demands, it is important to be able to say no, set clear boundaries, and manage your time. One of the key principles of Stoicism is to distinguish between what is in our control and what is not in our control. Endless demands can create a feeling that everything is out of our control, but it is important to remember that we have the right to set boundaries in relationships and choose how we spend our attention and time. Dealing with endless demands also involves developing emotional intelligence skills, which allows you to better understand your own emotions and effectively manage them in situations with constant demands. This helps to maintain emotional stability and prevent excessive stress resulting from the constant demands of others. It is important to learn how to set clear boundaries. Endless demands can always be unsatisfied, and setting clear boundaries becomes the key point. This does not mean giving up support, but it means defining personal boundaries and ways to meet their needs without affecting your well-being. Developing emotional resilience skills is also an important aspect. Endless demands can use emotional reactions to achieve their goals. The ability to manage your emotions, not to succumb to provocations, and remain calm in response to their demands will help maintain emotional balance. The principles of Stoicism can be useful when interacting with endless demands. The Stoics teach that we cannot always control external circumstances, but we can always control our reaction to them. Maintaining inner resilience and preserving one's values in a situation of constant demands is an important component of successful interaction with endless demands.